Okay, today I'm talking about blind obedience to Caesar. And so, as many of you know, the government entity which runs health procedures for the United States, um, they have banned or they have said that if you have received the jab, you don't have to wear a cover over your face. And so, a lot of bishops are instituting policies where they're relaxing the restrictions what they have in their dioceses, parishes, all that stuff. Now, people are um, happy about that, and understandably so. However, um, it's interesting that whenever the government says something, these bishops react accordingly. And this is kind of what I want to talk about today. So, there are a number of people that it's the come as you are crowd. And so they say, like, in church, come as you are. And that means you can wear pajamas or shorts or sports jerseys to Mass. And after this virus stuff, they're the ones that are the worst about it. They're saying, you need to make sure that we can't see your face or any of that stuff. And because you have to do the pro-life thing and wear this thing over your face, and it's just kind of interesting how uh, the church didn't require women to veil, but they required everyone to wear a veil over their face, at least the lower part of their face. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it's very encouraging because we can get discouraged pretty quickly. And it was very encouraging to see Father Mark Goring and Father Anthony Hannon of To Prepare His Way. Um, they both participated in the Canada March for Life, and Father Anthony Hannon, he said something, and I wasn't sure what to talk about today. I had a few different ideas, but this is something that really struck me was that he was saying that he didn't want to go to the March for Life. He said he made it every single year, including last year. He did his own personal March for Life, which didn't really do much. But um, he said that he didn't want to go because he might have to wear something over his face. And he said he decided not to go, but then last minute he decided to change his mind, and he went, and he was glad he did, and he found a lot of other people. They were, you know, just like normal people at the Canada March for Life. So good for them. It looked like a very small crowd participating in the Canada March for Life, a few hundred people, but that's great because the March for Life in the United States didn't actually happen. But it just gives us encouragement like, hey, you know what? Father Hannon decided to go, and we can't give up. He's just one person, but he has a gigantic impact on a lot of people's lives. I don't know how many followers he has, several thousand maybe. And even that, you say, well, that's not very many. And for me, my subscriber count, it's a lot of subscribers at the same time. I can't really reach out to a significant number of people, and we can get discouraged, but we can't give up. So, anyway, getting back to the blind obedience to Caesar, our bishops and priests are selling out to the government. And so I want to do some alternative church history, alternative Bible stories. Martin Luther did that. He kind of changed up some of the words in Scripture. And so I want to change up a few of the stories in church history. And so we're going to go back to the early church, where St. Peter, after Jesus was crucified and rose from the dead, the apostles were kind of scared, and eventually the Holy Spirit came, and they were emboldened by the Spirit, and they just evangelized to no end. They were thrown in prison, and I'm going to put a little twist on this. So St. Peter, the authorities, the government, the Roman authorities said, well, we have these pagan gods, and you have this Christian God, and so we want you to give just a pinch of incense to these pagan gods. And St. Peter, he said to the authorities, he said, well, you know what? In the spirit of fraternity and dialogue, I'm going to give just a pinch of incense to one of your gods, and then you'll leave me alone, right? And they said, sure. And so he did. And they said, oh no, you need to give more incense these pagan. You just you see how this goes down the road. Okay. So next we're going to move on to Saint Francis of Assisi, and as you know, with him, he went to see this Mohammedan leader, Sultan, and he he decided to go for the purpose of converting him, telling him outside the church there is no salvation, that is the Catholic Church. And an alternative story here, St. Francis of Assisi decided to visit this Mohammedan leader in a spirit of, well, fraternity and dialogue. He said, God willed all religions, and I want to visit this Mohammedan and invite him to come to my church and have an interfaith ceremony. He can pray his prayers in my church, and then I'm going to go to his mosque. Actually, I'm not, because if I go to his mosque, I'll get blown up. So, okay, and then we're moving on to St. John Fisher, and as you know, King Henry VIII decided to divorce his wife, and St. John Fisher excommunicated King Henry VIII. And St. John Fisher, I think that was a little bit harsh to excommunicate the king for contradicting the Catholic faith. Because I think we need to accompany these people. All right, this is complete bogus. So as you can tell, these are completely false stories. And so why are our bishops listening? Why are they waiting for the government's permission to do anything? And this is kind of an interesting situation, because whenever the shutdown happened in March of last year, I think it was March, the bishops, a lot of them kind of got together, and I think there are like 20 some states where the federal government cannot restrict any kind of religious freedom. And so a lot of these bishops voluntarily shut down churches, voluntarily locked the lay people out of their churches, and then they sent a letter in the mail and said, hey, we're running our Lenten campaign, please remember to donate. And I think it's ridiculous, because whenever they realized that this was nonsense, then they didn't open the churches back up until after Pentecost. So we had Easter, we were locked out of the churches in Easter. We were locked out, most of us were locked out of churches in Pentecost. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to attend a Byzantine liturgy in Pentecost, but most people didn't. And so these bishops, they're waiting for this permission from the government to reduce restrictions. And I'm thinking here, this is unprecedented, that the Catholic Church, the Catholic bishops, at least I'm particularly referring to the bishops in the United States, they're going to ask permission from the government to, completely change their liturgies. I mean, most of them don't even have holy water in the holy water fonts. How demonic is that? So, and if we're talking about international, let's look at the church in China. When did the Catholic Church allow a political leader, especially a communist, to appoint bishops to the Catholic Church? This is China we're talking about here, and this is the same thing. Blind obedience to Caesar. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's ridiculous. And so we shouldn't overreact. We shouldn't be so happy, thank you, Bishop. No, we need to remember this, because the next time the government comes to shut down our churches, the bishops, I think they're going to do the same thing. I think they're going to just completely cave to the government. And here's why. It's because there is like Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, okay? But did Jesus say, take money from Caesar? Because that's what our bishops are doing. They're taking money from the government. $70 million a year goes to the USCCB. And we know that. And if these bishops, if they don't cooperate with the government, what's going to happen? They might lose their money. If they ban Joe Biden from receiving communion. What's going to happen? Are they going to lose that money? So I think they have this money coming, and Catholic Charities too. At least $1.5 billion a year Catholic Charities USA receives from the United States government. That could end very quickly, and a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. So this is the render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. This is take from Caesar what is Caesar's. And so then you don't have any money coming in that's not government money. So, and with the pandemic unemployment or pandemic assistance, the Paycheck Protection Program from the United States government, most dioceses are evading bankruptcy temporarily. And that's because the money that they're getting from the government is enough to push them over the top, so that the money that they're not getting from the parishioners, which they will never be getting from parishioners again, um, that's not going to be replaced once the government funding ends. And it seems like, based on what is happening in the United States, that type of funding from the government could end sooner rather than later. I thought it was going to end maybe in a year or two, but now it's looking like it might end in half a year, maybe. So I don't know. That's all I have for that. I just want to get to the comments. I'll get to the comments of the week here. I had some good ones. So someone asks where I was from, Pennsylvania, and I'm like, I said I can't really tell. I can't disclose my location for obvious reasons. I don't want to do that. But if I happen to run into you at a mass, find some Latin masses, and maybe I'll run into you at one of them. Hopefully, that'll be cool. I'd like to meet you guys. Okay, so let me just scroll down because I had a few comments. A lot of comments on the SSPX. That always gets a lot of comments, and I think the one SSPX video I did had like 200 comments. People were just calling each other morons. I just completely tuned out of that conversation. I can't read all the comments, and so, but that one, I mean, it wasn't even entertaining. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't read it. At a certain point, once you keep calling people names, it's just not worth reading. Anyway, there is my Ugly Modern Catholic Cathedrals of California video. This one was a lot of fun to make. I think it was the San Francisco Cathedral. I got a lot of comments where people said they call it Our Lady of Maytag because it looks like a washing machine or something. I don't know. I thought that was hilarious. But this was a video I recorded last year, and so I got a comment here. It was this guy says, awful judgmental and crude for a Catholic, especially against the church. I don't think Jesus minds worship on new forms of architecture. And see, I would kind of disagree with that. And I know I was watching a podcast with Kennedy Hall and Tim Flanders, and they were saying that the whitewashing of churches was demonic because they were painting over the paintings of saints, and they were actually smashing statues. That's the iconoclast heresy that I talked about with Peter the Byzantine in one of our videos. And so I don't know. I don't think Jesus minds worship on new forms of architecture. I just don't think it's inspiring. I think it's dumb. Like, why don't we just try to, like, even put statues around the altar or something? Like, make it look like a Catholic church. That's not. Anyway, I don't really spend a lot of time on troll comments. But and then there was this video I said the video where I said Vatican responds to USCCB's consideration of discussing denying Biden communion. RJC commented here. He says, my prediction is that the good bishops of the USCCB will ignore the Vatican, learning from the Germans, and I think they will draft something leaning towards condemnation of Biden. However, the real show will be the debates and the interventions. I think this is going to get tense at a minimum. I think some guys are going to go after each other. I think Coeur d'Leon will attack Cupich or one of his buddies after it's over, and perhaps during Cupich will do a lot of hand-wringing. I think the American schism starts here over Joe Biden. The man is a scandal, and I think there are a few of the bishops who know it, and they are going to try to put a stop to it. That's kind of a bold prediction. And my thought is, yeah, I mean, this could happen because the USCCB meeting is on Zoom. And so it's going to be less personal because, like, I'm talking to a camera right here. So, and I can see how many people are tuned into the live stream, but it's not like I'm standing up. And I think a lot of people do watch videos after the live streams. And so it's not like I'm standing up and talking to a room of 100 to 200 people, where if I say something and I know that people, won't may not like to hear it, they might give me some angry glares. Where you're not going to see any of those angry glares because you're staring at a computer screen. So I think it's less intimidating to talk on a computer screen. Now, here's the thing with the USCCB meeting is that each bishop's only going to get like one chance to talk. So Strickland, he's got to pick his points very carefully. At the last USCCB meeting, Strickland and Paprocki picked their points on defending the legacy of John Paul II right after the McCarrick Report. And so there wasn't a whole lot of defending the Catholic faith to be done there. And I think that they probably should have focused their efforts other places because Strickland and Paprocki, they could go on Twitter or release a statement or something defending the legacy of John Paul II if they really feel like doing that. But the USCCB meeting, it's really about the lay people want to see these bishops call out fellow bishops. They want to see them. They want to hear them call out their fellow bishops for supporting this heresy, for endorsing this anti-Catholicism that's going on in their dioceses. And like, how do you think the priests, how optimistic do you think the priests are in like Bishop Stowe's diocese in Lexington, Kentucky? Their bishop is a complete heretic. Like he, so they went from, I believe it was Bishop Ronald Gaynor, who's now in the Diocese of Harrisburg. And Bishop Gaynor is very friendly towards tradition. And so they went from a bishop who is presumably Catholic, who actually likes the Catholic faith, apparently. He's friendly towards tradition, to a guy who hates the Catholic faith, promotes ideas that are contradictory to the Catholic faith. And they know that if they make a strong stand in favor of Catholicism, these priests know this, that their bishop will not stand behind them and they will likely get sanctioned, and maybe they will be transferred. Maybe they will be shut down completely and sent to St. Luke's Institute for Troubled Priests. So I don't know. I think it's just it's a tough situation. Will Coeur de Leon stand up? I don't know. He's been making strong statements on Twitter. He's been making strong statements on the media. Catholic News Agency, EWTN, the whole organization of that is covering him. And so he's kind of the leader in this. And I know he can get Strickland and Paprocki to stand behind him. Several others as well, possibly. I know Bishop Olmsted is saying that politicians, if they support abortion, they should not present themselves for communion. Bishop Olmsted of Phoenix, who I said is close to retirement, but he could make he could make a splash going out, and he could be like Chaput, who famously said at the USCCB meeting, "I don't see how all the activities of the USCCB benefit the Archdiocese of Philadelphia." I was like, "Boom! This is great. We need more of this." And it turns out that they took a vote, and the USCCB, like the bishops at the USCCB, didn't want to increase the tax because that's what Archbishop Chaput was talking about. He said he was opposed to a tax increase. They didn't want to increase the tax. There weren't enough votes, and so later on they got absentee ballots. I mean, we've seen this in the USCCB elections as well as other elections, but they got absentee ballots that were in favor of raising the taxes, and so they were able to cross the threshold of the vote to increase the tax. And so that kind of stuff happens. We saw that with Bernardine and Communion in the Hand before I was born, and that's the case here. But anyway, I think that's all I have for today. And one of the things is, we just need to understand that a lot of the bishops, the reality is a lot of the bishops, they have blind obedience to Caesar at this point, I don't know that there's any reversing that, but we do have hope. There's a lot of priests and bishops on our side, and we evidence that at Canada's March for Life. So thank you for watching. And we have hope and we have a voice. It might not be a strong voice, but it is a voice nonetheless. And so let your voices be heard. Speak out against this corruption because we are the laity and we will not be silent.